time to dive into the best books of 2023 here on Beauty and Beyond. I'm Amy, and thank you so much for watching this video, or welcome back if you have been watching some of my videos. I love to talk about makeup, skincare, books, and sometimes I sprinkle in some cleaning content as well. So I hope that all of that sounds interesting, and let's get started with the best books that I read. My favorite 5-star reviews on Goodreads. These are the books that really still hold true to my heart. The first book that I want to share with you is called Lock Every Door by Riley Sager. And you're going to see another Riley Sager book on this video. And I guess I need to dive into more Riley Sager writings because I really like this almost horror style genre. I think this is a very creepy style, but it's sort of a palatable horror type thing. This book, Lock Every Door, is about Jules Larson scoring a dream job as an apartment sitter in the luxurious Bartholomew in Manhattan. This building is well known for having lots of famous, very, very rich people that live there, and she gets to be, an apartment sitter there just in the nick of time. She needs a place to stay. But this job has many stipulations. One, that you can have no visitors. Two, you can't spend the night away from your building. You have to stay at the building, and you cannot bother the residents of the building, like the normal residents. So that all seemed fine and dandy. And one day Jules is having a conversation with another apartment sitter named Ingrid, and she discovers that things may not be all what they seem in this beautiful building, luxurious lifestyle kind of situation. And so after they have this conversation, Ingrid goes missing, and Jules is on the case to discover what happened to Ingrid. She's searching, she's talking to people now, other residents of the building, and she's doing things that she's not supposed to be doing. And so she discovers something very sinister is going on behind the scenes of this beautiful, luxurious building. And I just found this book to be so intense. And this was an audiobook. It was so fast paced. I really was just eating it up. I finished it really, really fast because I couldn't wait to find out what happened. And the ending of this book is very shocking and totally not expected at all. And without trying to give away too much of the ending, I will say that it has a deeper meaning and thought-provoking situation that occurs towards the end of this book. So it's very interesting. And another thought-provoking and still very impactful book to me is The Four Winds by Kristen Hanna. And this book is very impactful to me for, I think, a variety of reasons. One, it's the first historical fiction book that I had listened to, and I discovered that I love Kristen Hanna. I love historical fiction because I do love history and I love fiction. So the two things going together are really perfect. Second, this book takes place in the Great Plains, aka the Texas Panhandle. Dalhart is the name of the town. So before I moved to Missouri, I lived in the Texas Panhandle, not too far from Dalhart. So this was an area in which I was very familiar with. I was familiar with the environment and the weather and the climate and all of the, outside factors that can affect living life in the Panhandle. And during the Great Depression, it was, infinitely worse. This book details Elsa Martinelli and her family as they are trying to survive the Great Depression in the Texas Panhandle, where it's dry, it's hot, the animals are dying, the crops are dying, there's no water, there's a severe drought. And if you are familiar with the Texas Panhandle, dirt storms, dust storms, they're called haboobs, are really, really intense. I might even try to like pop up a picture of a haboob that happened right before we moved. And so this is what Elsa was living through. And so as me, someone who was living not too far from where this story took place, I know how hard it is just in the 2020s. So 100 years ago, you know, because it was just really impactful to me. So Elsa, and you know, tries to save her family, but ultimately it's just her and her son that end up going to California. This is during the gold rush time, and so the gold rush is, you know, promised where there's better times ahead. And Elsa soon figures out, as soon as they leave, that things are not always going to be greener on the other side. And in California, everyone was fleeing to California to get a better life, and it really wasn't better for her in the end. So highly, highly recommend Kristen Hanna books. That one especially, like I said, just really touched me. I have read two other Kristen Hanna books, and they are top reads for me. I've read In the Great Alone and The Nightingale. Those are really great books, but that one, I think, just because of the location and the personal nature to it, was the best one to me. Then I also discovered Taylor Jenkins Reid by reading my first one of her books, which is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I kind of felt like this was also sort of a historical fiction kind of book because it details Evelyn Hugo as an aging movie star from the golden age of film. She got famous in the 1950s, and this book sort of details her rise to fame through interviews that she's giving to a magazine reporter named Monique Grant. And Monique Grant is an unknown reporter. She just doesn't know Evelyn Hugo, and she's not famous for, you know, her reporting and all of that. So she's no idea why she got chosen to give this once in a lifetime interview, because Evelyn Hugo had never really given interviews about her life. And here she was wanting for Monique in secret to write her biography. So she's giving her details of her life, of her rise to fame, her loves that she's gained and lost. And then, you know, Monique is continuing to be curious about why was she chosen with this weight of this really impactful, sought after interview. And eventually she finds out why, and it becomes very clear, and that is a whole thing in and of itself. Probably one of the most impactful books. It's really hard to rank all of these, but this one's definitely going to be in the top 3 of the books that I read, and it's The Measure by Nikki Erlich. This apparently is Nikki Erlich's debut. Like, this is her first novel, and wow. Wow, this book and the story, first of all, second of all, the things that it speaks to as far as a society. Wow. Okay, so let me tell you what it's about. It's okay, so imagine, I'm looking at my notes here that I've typed up. Imagine that you really know how long that you have to live. And that happens one day in the very beginning of this book, when all the people on the entire earth wake up to a box on their front door, and the box contains a string. Some people's strings are short and some people's strings are long. And eventually they figure out, oh, and also the string can, I don't think it can be cut. Like it is unbreakable, unbendable, unchangeable. So eventually scientists figure out that this string correlates to how long you have to live. So there's the short stringers and the long stringers. And of course, the short stringers are not going to be here for a long time, and the long stringers have a long life ahead of them. This book speaks so much to eventually prejudice comes up against the short stringers. They can't get health insurance, they can't get jobs, people don't want to, be friends with them because they know that they only have a short time to live. And so it's detailing, I think, 8 different people in this book and just their journey, and some of them are short strings and some of them are long strings, and ultimately it's just such an impactful book. And when I'm talking about it and I'm thinking about it and I still remember exactly what happens, I want to read this book again. So I may read it again next year in 2024. I highly suggest that you go get this book too. Okay, so this next book I'm going to tell you about is not like literary genius, okay? I'm speaking solely to the fact that this was an audiobook, and oh my word, if you want a good laugh, if you want to roll on the floor laughing, and you're a fan of the Stephanie Plum series by Janet Ivanovich, you've got to go get your ears on Going Rogue by Janet Ivanovich. This is again in the Stephanie Plum series, and Connie, the office secretary, gets kidnapped. So Stephanie and Lulu and Grandma Mazer are on the case to try to figure it out. But, these books are really fun and they're silly and I don't take them very seriously. But when I tell you that this book and the person who reads this book and does all of the character voices, because it's one person that does all these different characters. And if you know anything about Lulu and Grandma Mazer, this lady that does these audiobooks is amazing. She needs an award for this book. This book had me driving down the road busting out laughing. I'm walking my dog and I'm busting out laughing, like snorting so hard laughing. It is hilarious. The story itself is, it is what it is, but the acting in this book by the narrator is wonderful. My next 2 books are by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I discovered YA genre this year. That's young adult fiction genre, if you're not familiar with that. And she has 2 different series, okay? The first one is The Naturals, and the second one is The Inheritance Games. I discovered both of those, and I love both of those. There's this sort of like dream come true kind of aspect to both of these. And The Naturals is about 17-year-old Cassie, who has the supernatural sort of ability to be able to, I think, tell if people are lying. I don't remember what hers is, but she's recruited by the FBI to come join this program of other kids who have natural abilities, like one can tell if someone's lying, someone can tell what you're thinking, they all just have different things that they can do. And so they've been recruited to kind of solve this case, but not really solve the case because they're 17 and they're minors and all that. But this case that they've sort of been enlisted to look at and help with is something that's close to Cassie's family history, and so it kind of like touches her in a different way, and it's a little close to home for her. So that is really cool. That's a whole series, and I'm looking forward to continuing to read that series. The Inheritance Games, I have read almost all of those audio, and this is about Avery Grams, who, she's just a normal teenager. She lives with her older sister because her mom has passed away, and all of a sudden she gets summoned to this ranch in Texas, and she doesn't live in Texas, so she gets summoned to this ranch in Texas, and eventually she realizes that she hit the jackpot. She has inherited this billionaire's fortune all by herself. This man has family. He has children, and he has grandkids, and they all are really miffed that they didn't inherit the money that the grandfather had accumulated. No one really knows why she was chosen. So it's this whole thing of she has to follow these rules of she can't spend more than 3 nights away. She has to stay there for a year at the mansion. Man, tough life. And so anyway, but things start to get really intense because jealousies, of course, are ensuing. She's kind of gets herself in a little bit of a love triangle, and things are getting scary because someone's out to get her and see if they can get to the fortune before she can. So they're trying to like off her a little bit. Okay, the next one is by Riley Sager, and it's called The Only One Left. And this kind of takes place in two different times. In 1929, Lenora Hope is accused of killing her family, her mom, her dad, and her sister, but she's never actually convicted. So everyone thinks that she did it, but no one can prove that she did it. And decades later, she's like on her deathbed basically, and she, has to have in-home health care, and she needs someone new to come and take care of her. So Kit McDeer is hired to help her, and Kit McDeer has her own suspicious past of some things that have gone on in her past. And so Lenora is ready to talk to Kit and tell her what really happened on that night when her family was murdered. So you have to kind of like read to find out what really happened. Again, this one isn't more of a horror, but it is really intense suspense. Really intense. Another horror book that I have discovered that I really like this author too. I think it's horror, but I don't know if it's classified as horror. But it's by Simone St. James, and it's The Sundown Motel. And the Sundown Motel is this really creepy motel where people have gone missing. Viv Delaney is, on the mission to figure out why her aunt, who worked there in the 80s, why she went missing. What happened to her? So she goes to work there in the office to try to investigate on her own. And very soon she realizes that there's, supernatural happenings and ghosts and things like that at this hotel. And so she's on this mission to try to figure out who the ghosts are and, what happened to her aunt. So can she figure it out? She does. Okay, and then the last book that I have to talk to you about is an autobiography called Counting the Cost by Jill Dillard and her husband, Derek, and they had another writer as well. And this book is everything that, if you follow the Duggar family, this book is everything that we've all been waiting for and that we've all kind of known about this family or kind of wanted to know. The deep, dark secrets of, the family and the truth about her dad and how her dad really handles things in their family. I found that this book was respectfully written. She just basically kind of told it from her point of view and what happened to her and how her dad treated her and her husband, and the mistruths and lies that were told and the things that they weren't allowed to do. And I felt like she did a really good job of telling the facts and the things that would happen and interjecting some of her feelings, but I feel like mostly it's facts. And she does go on to talk about how her mom, and she respects her mom, and I think that she's also writing this book to probably maybe reach out to some of her siblings and give them the courage to be able to speak up if they can, but some of them can't speak up because in the book you'll learn that many of them have, more than likely, signed a non-disclosure agreement that she was asked to sign, and she did not sign it. So that's why she was able to write this book, to be able to tell her story and what actually happened in her life and growing up and in adulthood as a married woman, as a mom, and all of the things that she didn't really have any control over because of legalities from her dad. So I thought that was a really great story, very well written, and I, again, that whole family is a whole thing, and hopefully one day they can be free from the shackles that they have placed around themselves. So those are my top favorites. 10 really great books that you might want to add to your TBR for 2024. Please, in the comments below, let me know what your favorite books were, because I am looking to add to my TBR and I want to continue to grow as a reader and explore different genres and different authors. So let me know what you liked in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. Happy reading.